Have you ever stood in front of a crumbling school, the windows shattered, vines curling through locker doors, and felt that chill, not from the wind, but from something older? There's something profoundly unsettling and irresistibly magnetic about abandoned schools. They're not just buildings, they're silent witnesses. Witnesses to childhood laughter, detention slips, graduation cheers, and sometimes things much darker. Imagine walking into a dusty classroom. The chalkboard still bears faint equations. A child's drawing, yellowed and curled at the edges, still clings to the back wall. The desks, some flipped, some broken, face forward as if class might resume any moment. One chair in the corner is missing a leg, its screws scattered like breadcrumbs. The bell above the door, rusted but intact, sways just enough to creak when the wind slips in. And in that silence you hear it. Not a sound, exactly. A presence. A pause too long. The echo of what was. People are drawn to places like this not because they want to see ruin, but because they want to feel memory, to brush against the past, even when it pushes back. This is more than just decay. This is memory etched into stone and silence. Preston Castle in Ione, California is one such place. Once a reform school for troubled boys, now a decaying skeleton with a reputation for ghostly sightings and unexplained sounds. And it's not the only one. Across Reddit or /urban exploration and our /abandoned porn. Stories pile up of strange echoes in locker line halls, of figures glimpsed through broken windows, of explorers who come out changed. Tonight, we follow 5 of those stories. Real people, real schools, and very real encounters. So grab a blanket, dim the lights, and stay with us through all 5 chilling accounts. If your heart can take it, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone brave enough to listen in the dark. Because the whispers are just beginning. Have you ever been inside a school that refuses to forget? Where the walls don't echo with your footsteps, they respond to them. Let me tell you about El Paso High School. Perched atop a hill in Texas, its Greco-Roman columns give an almost regal look. But behind the marble and brick lies one of the most haunted histories in American education. Locals call it the Lady on the Hill, but others call it something else. The place where voices never truly leave. It was fall when I transferred in junior year. My parents had moved us for work, and El Paso High was the only public school that had open enrollment mid-semester. From the outside, it looked like something out of a historical documentary. Majestic, timeless. But from the first week, I knew something was wrong. The school felt heavy. The air in some corridors was unnaturally cold. Lights flickered, and not like faulty wiring, more like deliberate pulses. Every time I passed the East Wing stairwell, I felt like I was being watched. I wasn't the only one. Other students avoided that wing. Teachers kept their classrooms locked and less in use. Rumors floated constantly. Whispers of a girl who had jumped from the top of the school decades ago. The tower above the auditorium. People said she wore white. People said she never hit the ground. I didn't believe any of it until the field trip. It was a late October Friday, and our U.S. history class got permission to visit the school archives, which were, surprise, housed in the East Wing. Even the teacher seemed nervous. We entered in a group of 12. Dim light, dust hanging thick, lockers dented, windows smeared. It looked like a different building entirely. Then it started. Footsteps, upstairs, steady, deliberate. The floors above were off limits. Everyone stopped. Security maybe? Someone whispered. No one's allowed up there anymore, our teacher said. Then came the giggle. Faint, girlish, and the cold. An instant drop, sharp enough to fob my breath. I remember glancing at one of the windows. The grime had cleared like someone had wiped it from the other side. In the reflection, I saw a girl in white standing just behind us. When I turned around, she was gone. That night, I had a dream, vivid, immersive. I was in the tower, standing at its edge. The wind howled. The girl was beside me, whispering. He pushed me. I woke in a sweat. Couldn't sleep again. The next day, I returned to school early. I don't know what compelled me, but I needed to see the stairwell. It was roped off, but the rope had been torn. The door opened. The staircase spiraled upward, unlit. I climbed slowly, the air thick with dust and age. Halfway up, I heard the steps behind me. Soft, barefoot. I turned. Nothing. I reached the top. The door to the tower was cracked open. Inside, empty, just wind and debris, and a single chair facing the city. I stepped inside, and the door slammed shut behind me. Panic surged. I pulled at the knob. Locked. Then I heard it. The whisper. Same voice from the dream. He pushed me. And then, footsteps circling me, but no one there. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. New message. No sender. It read, "Don't let him find you." The door unlocked. Slowly. I ran. I told the teacher. She didn't laugh. Instead, she asked, was she wearing white? Then she told me her own story from when she was a student here in the 80s. How she'd been in the same tower with friends. How one of them had heard a voice and backed off the ledge just in time. How people said the ghost wasn't trying to scare them, but to warn them. Later that week, I found myself drawn back to the archives. Alone, I dug through boxes of yearbooks, event flyers, school newspapers. Then I found it, a yellowed newspaper clipping from 1932. Headline, "Senior Girl Dies in Tragic Fall." The photo was blurry, but her white dress stood out. The article said no foul play suspected, but her classmates claimed she'd had a violent argument with a teacher earlier that day, a man who was quietly removed from his post later that year. His name matched the one engraved on a retired plaque I'd seen in the main hallway. I took a picture of the article. That night, it disappeared from my phone. The next few weeks were strange. I'd hear her name whispered in the hallways, but I'd never spoken aloud. One time, I passed by the old staircase again. I swear I saw her standing at the top, just as the late bell rang. She smiled and vanished. I graduated that year and left El Paso, but I never forgot. A decade later, I returned for reunion. The school looked the same, too much the same. I asked about the East Wing, still sealed. But on the alumni tour, as we passed the tower base, I noticed something new. A framed black and white photo had been added to the memorial wall. No name, just her image, faded, eyes closed. That night, in my hotel room, the fire alarm blared at exactly 3:17 a.m., the same time her death certificate had listed. No smoke, no fault, just a whisper as the sound died. Thank you. If you felt that chill, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more true horror stories, and tell us in the comments, would you go into the tower or turn back at the stairs? Have you ever stared down a hallway that seemed to stretch longer than physics should allow, with shadows at the end almost shift when you're not looking directly at them? That's where I felt the first time I stepped into the old school wing of Danvers State Hospital. Yes, that Danvers. Once a sprawling psychiatric institution in Massachusetts, it had an attached juvenile education wing, long sealed off from the public, a place where troubled children were taught during their treatment. That's where this story comes from. Back in college, I was into urban exploration, not the reckless kind. I always did my research. I didn't vandalize or steal. I just wanted to witness places time had forgotten. Danvers had already been partially demolished, but the school wing was still intact, condemned, inaccessible, and rumored to be deeply haunted. Most explorers avoided it. Not me. I found a forum post, buried in a 2012 thread on our /urban exploration. A user named Shad0W_Walker claimed to have entered the school wing alone in 2008. His story ended mid-sentence. Literally. No follow-up. That silence intrigued me. So, one cold February morning I went. I parked far off and hiked in. The air grew colder the closer I got. The school wing was tucked behind the central dome, 2 stories high, bricked up windows, rusted double doors. But someone had broken through, a narrow gap between rusted panels. I slipped in. The smell hit first, mildew, mold, and something sour. I clicked on my flashlight. Desks, tiny warped with time, child-sized chairs, some tipped over. Faded posters still clung to the walls. You could be anything, one declared above a cartoon astronaut. But it was silent, too silent, until it wasn't. The footsteps started behind me. I turned fast. Nothing, but my light flickered. I tapped it. That's when I saw the figure. It stood in the doorway behind me, not moving, not walking, just there, small, child height, entirely shadow, no features, like something cut from reality. I blinked and it was gone. I backed into the hallway. The silence returned. Then laughter, high-pitched, dozens of voices. It wasn't coming from any direction. It was coming from everywhere. I ran. 2nd floor, more classrooms, broken chalkboards, graffiti. I slowed my breathing, told myself it was in my head. Maybe I'd inhaled mold. But then came the sound of chairs scraping. Not one, but rows of them. I peeked into one room. Desks faced a board as if still in use. And every seat had a shadow in it. No bodies, just shapes, watching. One turned, just ahead, toward me. My flashlight died. I slammed the door shut and stumbled back. Footsteps followed. I fell, scraped my hand, looked up. Another shadow stood at the end of the hall. I turned to run, but the hallway wasn't ending. It stretched, warped. The exit was gone. Then I blinked, and I was back at the stairs. I didn't question it. I ran down, toward the exit. Before I reached the doors, a voice whispered, "We remember you." I froze. Then every door in the hallway slammed, one after the other. Bang, bang, bang. I kept running. Outside, light, air. But even as I gasped, I felt the eyes, watching from the broken window above. That night, I couldn't sleep. I checked the old forum. That user, Shad0W_Walker. His last post wasn't from 2012. It was updated by someone else. Said simply, he never left. 2 weeks later, I developed photos from that day. One image, from inside the 2nd floor classroom, showed a row of children, faint, almost translucent, dressed in 1950s uniforms. One in front smiled. She looked like my younger sister. I've never gone back, and I never will. But sometimes when I'm falling asleep, I hear the sound of chairs scraping, or high-pitched giggles from nowhere, and I remember the voice. We remember you. If that gave you chills, hit that like button, subscribe for more horror stories every week, and drop a comment. Would you have entered the 2nd floor or turned back at the door? There are ruins you walk through, and then there are ruins that walk through you. That's what I felt the first time I visited Preston Castle in Ione, California. Most know it as a reform school, the Preston School of Industry. Opened in 1894, it was once hailed as a progressive institution for troubled boys. Behind the red brick facade were classrooms, dorms, an infirmary, and, as many whisper, dark memories that refuse to die. The state shut it down in 1960, but the walls remained, along with something else. Something watching. This is not a story from the internet. It happened to me. My friend Rachel and I were documentary students. We had a grant to film a series on forgotten institutions of America. Preston was on our list for its gothic look, its grim history, and its reputation. The local guides only allowed daylight tours, and only on certain wings. But a janitor, name withheld by request, had seen our work before. He offered us something else. 1 hour. Inside. No supervision, he said. But don't go near the East Infirmary, and leave before dark. We agreed. That day, we entered with gear, 2 DSLRs, 1 handheld mic, headlamps, and a single rule: stay together. The air inside was thick. Dust danced in golden shafts of light. Floorboards creaked even when we didn't move. Walls bore student etchings, initials, dates, words scratched deep. In one room, desks sat in rows. An old globe, yellowed and cracked, spun gently as we passed. It hadn't moved when we entered, Rachel whispered. I swear someone just walked past the door, but the hallway was empty. We interviewed the janitor later. He told us about a boy named Eli. Came in 1931, 13 years old. Quiet, off, some staff had said. Eli vanished one night, never found. Some say he ran away. Others say something worse. But kids kept reporting the same thing after he disappeared. I saw him in the hallway, in the dormitory. Rachel asked me to film while she read old intake records. Suddenly, her expression changed. She backed away from a bunk. What? I asked. She just pointed. Beneath the cot, initials carved deep. Yo. Then the mic we'd left on the windowsill picked up a sound. A whisper. Faint. Still here? We froze. And then footsteps. Quick. Childlike. Running down the hallway. I chased them. Camera rolling. The East Infirmary door creaked open. I shouldn't have gone in. The floor tiles were cracked, streaked with reddish stains. Medical equipment rusted over. A gurney in the center. A doll, missing an eye, perched atop a scale. Then a voice, right behind me. I don't want to go. I spun. No one there. But on the camera feed, live, a figure stood in the corner. A boy, thin, pale, in a torn uniform. He didn't move. The room grew colder. Rachel called from the hall. We have to go. It's almost dark. I turned back to the corner. The boy was gone, but the gurney was now against the door. I hadn't touched it. We forced it aside and ran. Outside, the sky was bleeding orange. That night, we played the audio back. Beyond our breathing, our whispers was another sound, a humming, a lullaby, barely audible, and under it, a second voice. Don't forget me. 2 days later, I checked the footage. In an infirmary clip, frame by frame, you can see the boy. In one moment, he lifts his hand and points at Rachel. She got sick the next day. Fevers, nightmares. Doctors found nothing. She dropped out of the project. Said she couldn't handle whatever followed her. I returned to Preston Castle last fall, just to see. It was different, fenced off, weathered worse. But the windows the same, and in one of them a shape stood, watching. I blinked, gone, but I swear I heard it again, that voice, still here. Did this story haunt you like it haunted us? Then like this video, subscribe for more terrifying encounters, and comment below. Would you have entered the infirmary, or left while you still could? They say science can explain everything. But what if science only takes us to the edge and then leaves us in the dark? Welcome to South Kent School, a real private boarding school nestled in the quiet hills of Connecticut, known for its academic rigor and serene campus. It doesn't look haunted, but beneath the dorms, the chapel, and the ancient trees lies a chilling tale of science colliding with the supernatural. I was a researcher, parapsychology to be specific, and South Kent was my experiment. The story begins in winter. I'd received permission to conduct a study on environmental anomalies in supposedly haunted sites. South Kent had a reputation, not public, but among former students. Whispers of shadows in the science hall, strange electromagnetic spikes in the chapel, sudden drops in temperature in Dorm 3. The school granted me 3 nights of full access. I brought gear, EMF meters, thermal cameras, EVP recorders, everything skeptics would demand. Night 1, quiet, except at exactly 1:13 a.m., every EMF meter spiked, then dropped. No explanation, no electronics nearby. The chapel was empty, but on playback, a male voice whispered one word, outside. Night 2, I brought a student volunteer, Ben, 17, senior, skeptical but curious. We returned to Dorm 3. Temp, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. EMF, stable. Until we entered room 312. The door creaked, though I swear no wind blew. The air felt dense, like the room was breathing. Ben pointed. A handprint on the inside of the fog window. 5 fingers. Small. We placed a recorder on the desk. Asked the usual questions. Is anyone here with us? Silence. Then, are you a former student? A pause. Still here. The voice, not on our recorder, but on Ben's phone, which had been left in his backpack. No app open. No mic on. We replayed it twice. Chilling. On night 3, I set up sensors in the old science wing, the room where former students said desks move by themselves. At 2 a.m., every motion sensor triggered. No movement on camera, but the data showed a sequence, like footsteps, crossing from one side to the other, then stopping at the fire exit that had been sealed since 1998. Then, in the hallway, a mirror cracked from the inside. I returned home to analyze the data. The thermal footage revealed something more. In room 312, during the EVP session behind Ben, a cold spot appeared, human-shaped, 5 feet 5 inches, stationary, no visible figure. The EMF readings, overlaid with the timestamps, match theories proposed in residual haunting research, energy imprints, often from trauma, repeating in fixed loops. We'd captured a full cycle, but the story doesn't end there. Ben contacted me 2 weeks later. He'd been having dreams. The same hallway, the same room, but the handprint now moved. It reached for him. Then came the nosebleeds. Doctors found no cause. But each night, 1:13 a.m., the exact moment the EMF spiked on night 1, he'd wake up drenched in sweat. Then one morning, he sent me a photo on his bathroom mirror, still here, written in fog. No one else home. I submitted my findings. The university rejected the paper. Too anecdotal, not replicable. But I know what we saw, what we heard, what followed us home. Maybe science can't explain everything, but sometimes it records it. If this true account shook your beliefs, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell us. Do you think the signs of hauntings will ever catch up with what we feel in the dark? Some endings echo forever, not because of how they end, but because of what they leave behind. Harlan Elementary was never supposed to be haunted. It was a cheerful little school in rural Kentucky. with pastel walls, aging playground equipment, and a student body of fewer than 150 kids. But after the chemical spill of 1997, when nearby runoff contaminated the school's well water, the doors were closed for good. Officially, it was a precaution. Unofficially, something was already wrong. Locals say the school was cursed long before the spill. Before it was a school, the land held a 19th century cemetery that was partially relocated to build the foundation. Emphasis on partially. The state sealed the building, but vandals broke in. Then thrill seekers. Then paranormal investigators. And every one of them came back with a story. I visited Harlan Elementary last fall. I didn't go in looking for ghosts. I wanted to say goodbye. My sister Mia was a student there in '97. She was 7. When she started getting sick, no one could explain why. Then came the dreams. She'd talk about a girl who cried in the bathroom stall, who whispered about cold hands, and the door that locks from the outside. Mia passed away in 2003. Kidney failure. She always said, it wasn't the water, it was her. I thought it was a child's way of processing trauma. But when I walked those cracked tile floors 20 years later, I realized something. Mia wasn't imagining anything. I entered through the gymnasium. The roof had partially collapsed. Rain dripped in rhythmic taps. Bleachers lined with moss. The air was heavy. From the start, I felt watched, but not threatened. Not yet. The cafeteria still had posters up. You are what you eat. Half-peeled, mold spreading across a smiling apple. Trays littered the floor. One chair rocked by itself. Then came the laughing. Faint, but real. I followed the sound into the art room. Murals still clung to the brick. Handprints, animals, stars. A child's coat hung on a peg, untouched by time. That's when the door shut behind me. Hard. I ran to open it. Locked. Then a voice. She never left. The air turned bitter cold. My breath fogged. And then, from the window, a small face. Pale. Crying. Mia. I whispered. The face vanished. I stumbled out, back through the hallway, where someone had written on the whiteboard in red marker, "Don't look under the stage." I knew better, but curiosity. The stage door creaked open. Dust spilled out like smoke. Underneath, it was black, silent. My flashlight flickered, and then fingers, gripping the wood slats, then pulling back. A sound, half growl, half breath, then a whisper. It's not just her. We're all still here. I ran, out through the side exit, onto the weedy playground. I looked back, and in every window, faces, watching, not threatening, just waiting. For what, I don't know, but I know now why some buildings feel alive. They are. Today, Harlan Elementary is surrounded by fencing and warning signs. But late at night, lights flicker inside. Locals report hearing bells. Whispers. Some say it's just animals, just imagination. But some of us know better. Some of us have heard what the walls remember. Some of us have lost too much to forget. And if you listen closely through the broken windows and crumbling walls, you'll hear it too. She never left. Was this the most haunting of them all? Then subscribe for more. Like if you felt the chills, and comment. What would you have done if the door locked behind you? 5 schools, 5 echoes of the past. From the cursed grounds of El Paso High, to the flickering shadows of Danvers, to the silent ruins of Preston Castle, the science and sorrow South Kent, and the chilling cries from Harlan Elementary. Tonight, we didn't just tell stories. We walked the faded hallways, We listened to the whispers behind sealed doors, and we remembered those long forgotten. If you felt a chill, if your heart beat faster when the door slammed shut, if a voice whispered just behind you while you watched, then don't ignore it, because some places never let go. Like this video to honor the memories. Subscribe to join us every week for more true horror that lingers. Comment below which of the 5 stories haunted you most. And would you dare to visit one of these schools? Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and listen closely to the tales Nameless